Topic today, no, ain't no mountain high enough. I have Simon Greaves with me, a wonderful gentleman, and I'm so in awe every time I spoke to him last week. Um, this is a platform that I created so we can share stories, and hopefully your stories will be more exciting than mine. Like Simon's story is amazing to me. If you like it, share. I'll make a comment anytime, feel free. And also, just to let you know, I am broadcasting from Singapore. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Simon on. Simon, welcome to Life by Laila. And
Hello, Laila.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm privileged, and thank you very much.
No, I'm so grateful that you want to be on my show, and this broadcast from my bedroom. So, so let's
Well, I've got into your bedroom at last.
so let's hear a little bit of your where you're from.
Okay.
You're in Singapore now.
Sure, I'm English, as you can tell by the accent, but I've been here about 8 years. Be 8 years here next May. I basically came here because I sold a company. Built a recruitment company in the UK in a tech sector, which I sold, and then decided to come to Asia and conquer Asia. I had a friend here who was here, so we teamed up together and came here and just thought we'd sort of grow an organization here in Asia, based from Singapore. So we've got a small office in China, small office here, and pretty much that's it. But my background before that, so before I got into recruitment, was in the military. So I'm ex-RAF, and I used to fly on a thing called a Nimrod, which is a odd-sounding plane, but basically it's used to fly around the North Atlantic chasing Russian submarines and tracking them and ships and stuff like that for a little while. So that's how I came to be in Singapore. And it's been an amazing journey since I've been here. So ups and downs, highs and lows, very interesting. And so now I'm on a new journey. So trying to change the career and trying to do more things here in Singapore.
So when you say you going to conquer Asia, what does that mean?
Well, I think when I sold my company in the UK, and we were covering sort of Europe and America, most of my clients are Silicon Valley types. And so they just kept saying the actions in Asia, keep going to Asia. So I thought, okay, I can take a hint. And I decided to come out here and think, okay, right. So a lot of companies want to expand. Obviously, the China market's big, Korea market's big, Southeast Asia. I suppose you could throw India in there as well. They were just having needs out here. So the idea was to come out here and facilitate and work with those guys to try and help them expand out here, so find talent, which wasn't easy. I mean, obviously, with all the cultural differences, the different ways that business are done. So it was a good, experience for me to come out here and learn how all those cultures do business. And also as a Westerner being based in Asia, that gave me a very different perspective on how things were done here, but also be able to have a good communication and chats with guys back in Europe and America. So they were seeing, this was 10 years ago, they were seeing a real growth here in Asia. I would say that's changed now. So now we're seeing that a lot of that is being retrenched, for security reasons, for actually cost. Sometimes the cost here there's not much benefit, from expanding out here in personnel. A lot of expats, especially in the tech sector's my knowledge, are being retrenched. So there's less opportunity for those guys, more local talent. So yeah, it was just an idea to learn and to see how this region works. But I love it out here as well. From a personal point of view, it's a great place to live.
Yes, it is. I love it too. So let's talk about the military, right? So you were in the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
So
My
let's talk.
father, sure. My father was in the army for 25 years. So I spent most of my life growing up in Germany. I then came into Hong Kong when I was a teenager and went to Hong Kong St. George's School for a couple of years, and then returned back and joined the RAF. And I wanted to be a pilot, but I had a slight color blindness in my eyes. So if you're not perfect with your eyes, that's it. So I became a thing called an air electronics operator, which is effectively a guy that sits in the back of a plane operating all the electronics equipment, so radar, acoustics, communications, electronic support, that sort of stuff, flying around the North Atlantic out of Scotland. So between Iceland and Norway, there's like a bottleneck where all the Russian fleets would come out. and we patrol that area for hours over the sea, just tracking whatever we possibly could coming out of there. So there was 2 or 3 squadrons that would do that. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then, if you want me to talk about what went into my eyesight, the reason I left was because I got a medical discharge. It was a great job. I mean, you have a 13-man crew, good camaraderie, great fun. I mean, you can imagine 13 guys basically having a laugh, tracking all this stuff, and very, very good fun, quite exciting. Low-level flying around the North Atlantic can be quite fun, and we went around the world as well, so it was good fun. But yeah, I kept noticing I was finding it difficult to look at the screens, and I thought, hey, I just need glasses. So I basically went for the usual medical checks, and then one day I was just thinking, when they put the glasses, it just doesn't work. Nothing's working. So we carried on, and it was getting worse and worse. And then I was on return from the first Gulf War. I was stationed out there for a few months, patrolling the Persian Gulf, looking after the sanctions during the war there. And I came back, and I thought, okay, I really need to get this sorted out. And I spoke to my sister. And my sister had just been diagnosed with a condition called Stargardt disease, which is it just seems all these diseases you get they're always discovered by some obscure person with an irregular name. So it took me a while to learn that. And then essentially what that is, it's a macular degeneration. So your eye has 2 parts. It has the outer and the inner. And in layman's terms, the outer is where you do your mobility, lets you, get around, all that sort of stuff. And your central vision is where you do facial recognitions, your reading, all the detail stuff. I liken it to sort of the old TVs versus 4K. And you need very detailed vision to do reading, so your brain can build up a picture. So that was disintegrating. And I went for a checkup, and they literally, I think I was in my early 20s, and the doctor there just said, hey, look, you're in those days, they were talking 30 years ago, he just said, look, you're going to go blind in about 10 years' time, and you can't fly anymore, and you can't drive anymore. The first thing that went through my head was my car's at the airport, how do I get home? And that was it. And then they sent me off, and I was literally grounded that day. And if you're in the Air Force and you're in a flying career and something's wrong, they pretty much don't know what to do with you, particularly in those days. And I was in the far reaches of Scotland in the middle of nowhere. So I was literally grounded. I could do what I like. I just went to the gym every day and kicked around and thought, okay, so I've got 10 years and I'm going to go blind. So I just sat around for 4 or 5 months, no support. There was in those days, no counseling. The doctors even then didn't really understand what it meant. I was just told you're going to go blind. So at that age, from a flying career, which is what I thought the next 20, 25 years of my life was going to be, it was just complete change, literally 24 hours. It was just done. So I think at those times, that age, you get a bit down, to say the least, and you're detached from your friends because they're still going off doing their job and flying around. So I sat quite low for a few months. And then I just thought, okay, I can sit and do this, or I can get myself off my arse and go and do something with my life. And I literally thought, right, it's up to me. I have to do this. And the words of you've got 10 years sort of kept rattling around in my mind. And I just thought, right, I'll just go and whatever people do in 40 years, I'll do it in 10. And so I just went fast forward. And I did loads of stuff. From a personal point of view, I met a beautiful woman and got married, and I jumped out of planes, I snowboarded down glaciers. I would do anything that I was supposed not to do. And it wasn't out of anything but thinking I just had to do it before I couldn't. Because I was just literally on this slope. And I just had this idea that in 10 years' time, the lights would go out. When someone says blind to you, you just think, okay, you can't see anything. And it's very hard to explain to people even today that what I can and can't see.
Right.
So, because I think there's a perception, only 2% of the people in the world that are registered blind can actually not see anything. Most people see something, whether it's shapes or lights, colors. My periphery vision is actually pretty good. So I can navigate and be mobile quite well. Even if I look directly at the camera now, it's a little bit awkward. If I look directly at the screen, it's sort of, to see you, I want to look over there because I'm using the side of my eye,
Right.
to get the clarity. But it's not as good, but it's what I can see. If I look directly at you, you pretty much disappear, So I have to concentrate on looking at someone who's 3 or 4 feet away. If I look at them, they disappear. But I know that if they disappear, then I'm looking at them. Otherwise, people think I'm looking over their left shoulder all the time. I think, what the hell is he looking at? Which is a bit awkward in restaurants and bars. And I still go into, and so I basically just figured that, okay, I didn't know what that meant. So I just went and did stuff. Even to this day, my brother has no idea how I'm still alive, because I would jump out of planes and I would do all sorts. So I was just driven. I just thought, it's up to me. It's carpe diem, seize the day, do everything I possibly could, build a company. So I got in there and built a company, and I suppose it changed my character a little bit, possibly a little bit arrogant, because I couldn't waste time. So I wouldn't suffer fools gladly. If you worked for me, you could do your job, and I made it a point to be the best, even in my company. Even though I was running the company, I still had to be the best consultant. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform. And I think that two things. I think the point I was trying to make was that if you've got a disability, it doesn't mean you can't do things. In fact, if anything, I think it can be an asset to show people that despite that, you can have an amazing life and you can do amazing things. And the other thing is that I think it's how you approach these things. It's a real mental adjustment. And some people will go one way, as in it can affect them negatively. And the other thing is that it can affect you positively. And I think for me, I went negative in that it changed my character. That I was in a rush all the time. I was accelerating. It was about me. My life was about me and living for myself. So I became, I think, a little bit selfish. I would do what I possibly could for anybody else. I'd bend over backwards. But if anybody came to me with a problem, I would think that's not a problem. X, Y, Z is a problem. Get on with it. So, but now I've learned to think, okay, this is more about doing things to show people that despite something, you can still do stuff. So that it hopefully more of an inspirational side of things, and that feels much better and much more comfortable inside. So it's been a very big journey.
Yeah, but I want to interject. Like it's a huge change, like from being able to see and now blurry visions, right? So it sounds, because to me, it sounds that you have arrived now here where you are almost accepting and do what you can. You excel with what you do now because of the time that you have, and your time is more precious than anything else. But how did it actually feel? Like, I can't see, I can't read now. I have to wear my glasses. It's really annoying. But to have, so how did that, being diagnosed by a doctor saying in 10 years' time you're going to go blind? How did you deal with that? What was the I know it's a roller coaster, so I'm really interested to know about that.
Well, actually, it sort of wasn't. I mean, I was very fortunate. I was in Scotland at the time, home of the best whiskey in the world. So I partake in a bit of whiskey, so that helped the process. But it was it's a long time ago. It's 26 years ago I was diagnosed. But I remember going to the squadron commander and saying to him, in his office, he said, like, what's the score? And I said, hey, this is what I've been told. And he said something which actually I think, and this is why I think anybody you approach who's newly diagnosed with anything, you be very careful what you say, because this stuck with me for years. And he said to me, okay, that's interesting. Let's see if we can make use of you before you go. And I thought, okay, so basically here's my value. And I was made to feel that if you're not 100%, you've been rejected. And effectively, that's what they did. They just thought, this guy's broken. We can't use him. We just spent a fortune training him. I was still very young. I just put everything into 3 or 4 years of training, and I was, you train hard in the British military for a period of time, especially if you're flying, a lot to learn. And you're being tested for years. And so to some extent, it was having all that taken away. It wasn't about the eyesight. It was what I'd lost. I'd lost my career. I'd lost what I loved. I'd lost my friends. I'd lost everything. I was completely isolated. And that affected me more than the thought of going blind. To me, I think I'd been so highly trained, been told I was elite. I was the best, and this is drilled into you. It's indoctrination, but you believe this stuff. And that's why I think the Royal Air Force has some of the best troops in the world. And I would say that across all our services. But I think that that had more effect on me. What was taken away from me. I mean, at the same time, I was even stopped driving on the same day. So I was now. I mean, my camp was 12 miles from my house. So I was like, okay, now I've got to get a bus. And in Scotland, there's like a bus twice a day. So it was really a complete life change, and I just was confused, didn't understand. But the one thing that the military does do for you, it does make you feel, because I'd not been in that long, that you could have been dropped in the Sahara Desert with a penknife in your underpants and you'd survive. So I basically had this approach that, okay, this is just one of those challenges. I just have to face it. And I was naive. I was young, energetic, naive. Okay, I'll deal with it. My biggest concern was the fact that I was probably going to be alone. I think that was a real key for me. That okay, who's going to want a guide? Who's going to go blind? You know, I was giving myself my own prejudice and my own stigma, it just gets worse over time. And then you pretty much ignore it, because I was waiting for the lights to go out and they sort of didn't. It was very slow degradation. And my sister had the same problem. So she was 2 years older than me. She was diagnosed at the same time. And I took the approach of, I'm not going to let it affect my life. I'll try and think of it as not there. I'll think of the only thing I couldn't do was read a newspaper. I couldn't be a Formula One driver. But anything else is possible. Whereas my sister took the approach of, oh, she can't do this, can't do that. And hers degraded much faster. And I do believe that had an effect. I think I took care of myself physically. I took care of my diet. I took care of my mind to an extent. There were certain things I didn't do, which I wish I had done. So I went off in that direction. My sister went off in a more negative direction with, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I used to say to her, hey, look, you can. I think you can. And because I would know what she could see and what she couldn't see. So I think that for me, it was more about what I lost than what was going to happen to me. And I think that even today still plays a factor in looking back and thinking, oh, if I meet someone, it's not. I used to be in the Air Force. That was where my identity was. That's where my worth was. I mean, big deal. I'm a recruiter. So what? But you tell people you flew around the North Atlantic chasing Russian submarines. That's got some kudos. So it was a bit of an ego thing, really. So I was living on ego, and I'd lost that, and that affected me quite a lot. So I had to prove, from being rejected, I had to prove that I'm good enough. I'm worth this, and that was quite destructive. Because you put an awful lot of pressure on yourself when you feel that you've been rejected, you were elite, now you're not, you've got to get back there. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to get back there. And it was a continuous thing. Once you feed that devil, that fire, you just have to keep feeding it. So it was extreme sports, it was work, it was relationships, it's everything. You're just bam, 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 bam. And it's exhausting, And so I went on a journey for, I guess, about 20 years like that, and to a point very successful. It was a fuel. So it was great that it fueled me, and it was great that I could say to people, wow, I could do this stuff. And people go, wow, it's amazing. I mean, I even played golf, and I'm pretty good even to this day. And I can't even see the ball. I get someone spotting it, and I will go. I just won't let it stop me doing things, So that's pretty much how I dealt with it. Other people may be different.
Yeah, but how does it get to here? I mean, the blindness was one part of it. Let's talk about your journey to where you are comfortable now. Can we share with the audience
I don't know if we're comfortable. I'm just a work in progress still. In fact, probably even more so, because I think that when you live 20 years in a certain way, which you realize perhaps isn't healthy for you, there's a lot of undoing to do before you have to repack yourself. Everything was going great to an extent. I think I put a lot of pressure on my marriage at that point. We've been together for 20 years, and I was still, driven. And as I say, it became. I suppose I was self-centered in some respects, very generous, but I wanted to live my life my way, and whoever's with me comes along for the ride. And she was very supportive to an extent in certain ways. But, when I came out here, that put a pressure on a relationship. So, and I'm very much someone that likes to be comfortable in their personal life, and that helps my work life. But no, I came out here in 2010. I just sold the company that I'd built. I had about 20 guys working for me. So things were very good. And then, to be honest, I think I look back now and think there was a catalogue of tragedies that happened, which, are nothing special. Things happen to people. They lose people, relationships break up, and, you can gain and lose wealth, and all those things can happen to anybody, and they affect people quite a lot. I was just a little bit unfortunate, I think, that these happened in quick succession. So since I was here in a period of about 2.5 years, my sister, after being married for about 3 or 4 months, died from breast cancer. My marriage split up. I had some health issues, which pretty much put me out of action for almost a year. I got that back. I then was in a relationship after marriage broke up with a young girl, and here in Singapore for about 2.5 years. And I think the pressure of trying to still drive, still be okay, and still be up top, and still grow things with losing the marriage, the health, and my sister. And I think I was just getting back, but I was using the old energy to keep me on top without accepting any of this. And then my father passed away of a stroke, and he was my best friend. Some guy we worked with pretty much destroyed my company financially after we'd built it back. And then she left, and I think that all happened in 2.5 years. So I lost my sister, my father, the business. I built it back. It was frauded. I lost my marriage, and I gave everything I'd ever earned to my ex-wife. I just said, "Hey, look, this is the right thing to do. I'm nothing special. I'll do it again." Arrogance talking. And so when the girl left, I pretty much thought, I can't. There's something going wrong here, and I collapsed. I just literally fell apart. And in hindsight, that was about 18 months ago. And in hindsight, it's a good thing. It made me take a really long, hard look at how I'm driving my life. And one thing I'd say to people is that, it's never too late to change. And I don't mean that you have to change yourself. You maybe have to change the way you are with other people, the way you think about your goals and aspirations. Be a bit kinder to yourself. I was being really aggressive to myself. I was saying that I'm not good enough because in order for me to be good enough, I've got to work really hard. If I was in the office and I had a consultant, I'd have to be better than that consultant to feel valid so that I could tell the consultant what to do or teach them. And that wasn't necessary, but I was putting that pressure on myself. And I do that with my sister. When she passed away, I took control, organized the funeral, came back. I was and I'm the youngest in the family, and I was just I put myself in that position. With my marriage, okay, fine. It's my fault. There you go. You can have all the money. But then I just blamed myself for everything. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't working hard enough. I have to fix this, And it was just too much, and I just fell to the floor, and I just couldn't get off. When I was diagnosed with my eyesight in the Air Force, I was down, but I dealt with it. This time, I had no strength at all. I just completely burned out.
So is it right for me to say that the eyesight? Okay, I don't mean to belittle it. For you, you could handle it a lot better than the rest of the relationship, not your personal life that goes around it. Was harder to deal with.
I think yeah, absolutely. I think the eyesight, to some extent, was the foundation of the way I approached every problem. So whatever happened, whether it's a loss, a relationship, finances, I would deal with it the way I dealt with you're like, hey, it's fine. I'm fine. It's okay. I can sort this out. I can handle it. And I wasn't. I was managing it, but I wasn't dealing with it. And I think there's a big difference. And I think that approach doesn't work with everything. But that's what I taught myself to do. That was my coping mechanism. And essentially, I wasn't coping. I was just pushing everything down. Okay, that's okay, fine. I didn't even cry when my sister died. I didn't cry when my dad died. I was upset, but I was occupied with sorting it out and getting on. When my business collapsed, okay, fine, that happens. Get on with it. I was quite stoic about it in many ways. And essentially I was bottling up. And I think because it happened in such a short window, all these things happened within 2.5 years here in Singapore. You're far from your family as well. It just didn't work. I realized that it just didn't work. And then just bam, it just came out. When my girlfriend left, who I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and I just thought, wow, I just didn't even see it coming. And I just thought, okay, I need to change some things here. And you know what? That's when I saw the beauty in people. My friends were absolutely fantastic. I invest a lot of time with my friends because I value them. and that paid back tenfold. They were really good to me. I mean, I just laid on my sofa for 4 or 5 months, just thinking, what is going on? And I think that my close friends had realised that I was basically driving this Ferrari towards a wall. But I just that's how I lived life. You know, I had to do these things, and I probably needed that lesson. You know, I needed to have something harsh happen to me to slap me in the face and say, hey, you know, okay, some stuff's happening, which is probably more than most people put up with in a few years. But it happened. You have to change the way you think about these things. And my friends helped me through that fantastically. So, and true friends, real friends. And I learned what real friendship is at that point. And without them, I literally wouldn't be here. I was pretty much at the point of that'll do. See you later. I've had a good life. I've done pretty much everything. I've seen the 7 wonders. I've been around the world, and I've driven everything. But this is too much. You know, I'm done. And I could see no reason to go on. I literally thought, done it all, had it all, lost it all, don't need it, and I had no drive. And I just literally, bam, I just collapsed, like, unbelievably. You know, I just couldn't be consoled in any way whatsoever. I saw no point whatsoever. I didn't want to do anything. And I'm sure other people have been there, whether it's they've lost a job or lost a loved one or whatever. And you know, I got to the point where I thought, okay, I'm gonna finish this, which I tried and failed, thankfully. And I woke up the next day thinking, you know what? If you can get to the point in life where literally you can see no point in going on, every day's a bonus. So I thought, I can do anything now. It was almost liberating. It wasn't easy, but I thought, okay, if I can drive my life now for other reasons. And I was trying everything. You know, I went to, and the turning point for me was, I went and did some Reiki, and I'm not into Reiki, but I just thought I'd tried anything. I was just trying to survive. And I was pouring my heart out to this girl who was doing Reiki to me. I just cried my eyes out thinking, oh, why is all this happening? I'm trying my hardest here and just things are just going wrong. Every 6 months, bam, bam, bam. I was just like being beaten. And she said, well, maybe you can use it and help other people. And I liked the sound of it, but I had no idea what that meant. And then I thought, okay, yeah, that would make all this stuff worthwhile. Okay, I went through it for a reason, you know, and I'm not religious, you know. I've become a bit more spiritual about taking care of one's inner self. And then I was having a boys' weekend in Vietnam, and I was sitting in a hotel, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to do the most impossible thing that I should be able to do, you know, based on all this stuff. And I thought, and I kicked around a few years ago about climbing Mount Everest, and I thought, I'm going to do it because I shouldn't be able to do it, and it's impossible. You know, finances, training, experience, my eyesight, everything. So I went downstairs and I said to the guys, hey, I'm going to climb Mount Everest, and they obviously burst out laughing. And they said, but Simon, you can't see. And I said, well, hey, look, it can't be that hard. You go up, you go the right way. You go down, you go the wrong way. So again, my arrogance is still there. And no, I said, I'm really serious because I just needed a purpose. I needed a reason to get out of bed. I needed a reason to go and train. I needed a reason to go to work. I needed a reason to actually be here. So I had to choose something that was so impossible that it was big enough to say, at least if I try this and I fail, I tried. You know, if I didn't have that, and I think this is what I learned for people. If you're struggling in life, you've got to get a purpose. You know, you can be motivated, you can have support, you can have all these things, but if you've got no reason, you're not going to get out of bed. You know, it's hard to push through. And people kept saying to me, look, it's step by step, day by day. And for me, sometimes, some days were hour by hour. You know, I was hanging on hour by hour. And that's just like climbing a mountain. I needed support. I needed a focus. I needed to train. I needed to have a reason. And that gave me, and literally the moment I decided to do that, and I got back here in Singapore, I started to make inquiries. Man, the people I met, the doors that opened, it was fantastic. And that just gave me a new lease of life. And what was amazing was the compassion I was shown, and nobody ridiculed it. Everybody just thought, oh, that's a really good thing. And I thought, well, I don't want to do it just for me. And there was a selfish reason for doing it, but I also wanted to help other people, thinking, if you can lose everything, I'd lost my health, I'd lost my money, I'd lost my relationships, I'd lost everything. I had nothing, you know. I mean, I got to the point where I couldn't pay the rent next month. And you know, here's someone that had a 6-bedroom house with a jacuzzi in the back garden, beautiful wife, sports car, I had all that sort of stuff, which is, you know, I'm not bragging, but, you know, it now means nothing to me. that stuff. I'd lost everything, and I just thought, okay, you have to have this reason. You have to find something, and without that, you're pretty lost, you know. And people might help you get that, but you got to sit down, and the only way you find that is to go inside. You know, all the stuff outside means nothing. You got to go inside and think, okay, what do I need? What's going to make me drive me? And that's what I found. And I people were really supportive. I met some amazing people here in Singapore. Actually, quite surprised how many locals here have actually been to Everest, and they were just like, you know, I'm 50 years of age next year. You know, I'm relatively fit, but I knew I had to be spectacularly fit for this. And it just gave me direction. It gave me, and I think that seeing people's support really warmed me. And I thought, well, I really felt that if I now can use that to support other people who perhaps aren't as lucky as me. I mean, I do consider myself lucky. I had very good friends, and not everybody has that. So if in some way I could be that, just that little switch for someone that says, okay, yeah, it's tough, but you can find something, you can do something. I'd love to do that. That's my journey now. Is that, you know, I scraped together some money, and some people supported me on that front as well. And then I went and climbed a mountain in Nepal 2 months ago, which was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. I got my butt kicked because I thought I was fit, and I realized now, big respect for mountaineers. Anybody who's out there is watching who's got a sports background, mountaineers, they're a cut above. The fitness, endurance they have to have is just beyond belief. You know, you're doing everything that people are doing in these gyms and these boxes that now take half your oxygen away, now do it again, and do it for 8 hours. That will teach you who you are. That strips you down.
I want to go back a little bit. When you talked about, you know, you couldn't go on anymore. So can we touch on that? I think
sure.
I think it's important for people that are going through the similar situations, how when you hit the wall and you can't see, you know, how you can move forward. Are you comfortable about talking about that?
Sure. Yeah. What I learned.
Let's summarize it first, yeah? So you've lost your marriage, you lost your business, you lost your father, you lost your sister, and then you are here alone, and of course the eyesight goes from
that's
that
still there. that's still, I'm still having to live life, and again, 50 years later, thinking, okay, I've got to rebuild everything. You know, it's like, man, that was like the biggest mountain. I thought, I've lost everything, and I'd set myself a task to be in a position in life to have my future secured by a certain time, because I knew that I would lose my eyesight. And now I'm past that deadline. I'm still losing my eyesight, and I've lost it all that I built up. So I thought, wow, why is that? So I was questioning a lot, and it just seemed too much. It's like a mountain, avalanche just came down on top of me. I just couldn't move. I just thought, that's pretty overwhelming. And that's what happens when people hit traumas. They get overwhelmed. And my advice would be to people is to be patient with yourself. You know, be kind to yourself. And I wasn't, you know, and I was making things worse. And I think, okay, you've just got to calm down. You've got to be patient. You know, if you want to cry, cry. If you need to take a day off, take a day off. And even I've had a business coach, and he came and saw me. He's a very good friend of mine. And he just said, I was beating myself up because I couldn't motivate myself to work. And he said, hey, look, just calm down. Just do an hour. Just do an hour, then go off to the gym. Take the rest of the day off. And it was just bits. So I learned to do little bits. You know, I was living on juice drinks because I couldn't be bothered to cook, and protein bars and stuff like that because I just couldn't be bothered. You know, I was very good. I didn't drink at that point. I'd been drinking too much, and I stopped drinking. My friends, if they went out with me, wouldn't let me drink. They were very good. You're not ready for it, because they knew if I had a couple of beers, I could be throwing myself off a bridge. I was very, very low. And I just learned to be patient. Don't try and, you know, see this mountain in front of you and think you've got to run up it, or, you know, and get help. You know, I was a proud person. You know, I kept saying, I'm fine. And then I went to my friends and said, I'm not fine. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. You know, and they were very willing and very compassionate and very empathetic about helping me out. And that was amazing. And even people that, sort of knew me but didn't know me. And there's one particular person that actually was a demonstrator. That was Yuri Marie at CrossFit Enduro. She doesn't know me that well. She knew my history, and she knew I wanted to try and climb this mountain through a friend. And she agreed to train me. And, my reputation was such that perhaps, as a friend of other people, that she probably would want to steer away from me. But she realized that I was, sometimes you don't make good decisions when you're not in a good place. And I would probably try and say to people as well, when you see someone struggling and they're behaving a certain way, don't judge them. You don't know what's going on inside them or their life. And she was amazing by not doing that. And that had a huge effect on me, just her particularly, because there was no reason for her to help me. She didn't know about me, but she wanted to help purely out of helping someone. And that was a big lesson to me. She just saw someone that needed help, that was in pain and struggling, and she could do something. And I thought, that's amazing. There was no gain for her whatsoever. And our other friends were fantastic, but they knew me, they knew my story, and they were close to me. But she wasn't. And I thought, wow. And she affected me a lot. And I thought, if I could in some way pay that forward or pass that forward, that'd be a good lesson. And so that's what I learned, So I love her to bits, and I do anything for her. And I learned a big lesson there. But and again, she was more a case of, okay, it is what it is. You are where you are. Be patient and be kind to yourself. And don't try and solve all the problems all at once. Just take it day by day, hour by hour, whatever's necessary. But don't look too far ahead. Just look at your feet. And it's sort of like climbing a mountain. You pretty much spend most of your time looking at your feet. You're not even looking around because it's so exhausting. So you're just looking at your feet, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then next minute you look up and you think, oh, wow, I'm 1,000 feet higher. And then you look back down and you keep going, keep going, keep going. And sort of when you're trying to get through a bad patch, I think that's what I would say. Just take your time. If you need a break, take a break. If you need a day off, take a day off, And I know it's very different for different people. They've got families, if they've got a job to go to, that's extremely hard. But you have to not rush things. If you want to be on the other side of the pain, it's going to take as long as it takes. And I'm not a believer in time's a great healer. I don't think that's true. I just think you learn to deal with it. It may take some people longer than others, but you have to learn to find a way through that forest, in your own way. But asking for help is very key.
Yeah. So when you were at that lowest point of your life, right? So you are very blessed and lucky because the first thing is you have a great support system, mm-hmm. right? And then the biggest, I think, change was for you to say, I need help. Because most people will not want to say that because of our ego, because we are strong, and because you are a problem solver. I can hear it. True. So it's your problem. You should be able to solve everybody else's problem. So why can't I? So I can solve this myself. I don't need any help. But it's amazing that we have to lose everything to realize, it's all about relearning who we are, and humility is a greatest lesson to learn in our lives, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That was a big one for me, asking someone for help, because I'd done everything myself, and I kept everything inside, and I was like a volcano. I just going off. I just couldn't keep it inside anymore, and I just kept saying, why? But I also didn't want to bother people. And I just thought, this is my problem. It's my shit. I should deal with it. So it's a big step. But it's amazing what happens when you do ask for help. It's such a relief. It's like swimming across the Atlantic and you realize you're halfway and you think, I can't make it. I'm just not going to do this. And then, there's a boat there and you think, okay, if I can put my pride to one side for a second and my ego to one side, I need to go and get some help. And but the good thing was that this is what I mean by, when I always say this, I always say real friends. Real friends don't judge you. They just see you for who you are. They can see past that and see who you are, because, people, I've realized that people are angry at people that are behaving a certain way. You don't know their history. You don't know what's brought that out or where they come from. And it's very important to understand that. Even now, if even if I'm on a taxi and somebody cuts them up and they go crazy, I'm pretty calm about it. I'm like, you don't know what's happened to that guy. You don't know what. I just think, just it is what it is. But yeah, I think climbing a mountain will make you humble, because then you realize how mortal you are. I would say, I mean, like I say, I've been very fortunate, although I've driven myself to do this, and I think other people should push themselves more. They should challenge themselves more to find out who they are. They really need to do that. People in modern life, we sit so much in comfort zones. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and that did a lot for me. So climbing mountains, jumping out of planes, all these sort of stuff that I did, diving with sharks. They're great, and but climbing the mountain was the one that taught me humility, because I thought I was fit, and I thought it is unforgiving. But from that, I learned a huge amount about myself. Even from a work point of view and leadership, and what it really means to drive yourself on when you have no choice. And the thing with that was that you need help. You cannot do this stuff on your own. There's a few elite people around that climb mountains and they don't need help, and they have, they are supported in other ways, I would say, though, whether it's sponsorship or money, so they've got time. But you need help to climb a big mountain, and you have to have Sherpas, and they might say, oh, it's easy, these guys carry your gear, but, you haven't got time to go and spend 6 months to acclimatize, so you do need help. And that activity reflects life so much. And when you come down, you look back up and think, wow, that's something. Because it's visual, you can see it, But yeah, I mean, I would say having a purpose, having support, and then you have to find some resilience, that can't be given to you. So you have to take baby steps and give yourself challenges all the time. And that for me, that was a big one, because I was fit, I had the ability, I was driven, I dealt with things. I was pretty tough, or I thought I was. So to reach out and ask for help was a big thing for me, because it's something I'd never done. I was normally the guy that people go to for advice, or that if they're struggling, they come to me and I just go, hey, and I'd be quite casual about it. But this time I was drowning. So it was a big deal. But if I hadn't done that, actually, in some respects, I had no other option. I just didn't know what else to do. Everything I was trying had gone wrong.
So I'm going to ask a very stupid question. There's no such thing as stupid question. I must say that. Yeah. So why a mountain? Why climb a mountain? Why? I mean, it's like I hear people do this, right? Yep. Why a mountain?
Well, what else can be? A lot of it came about because there was the reference. When people are down, they will say, oh, look, it's day at a time, step by step. I know you got to climb a mountain. It's like climbing. And everybody refers to mountains in their lives when they're going through troubles. So I just thought it was basically a living metaphor. It was just like, okay, let's do it for real. But it wasn't just climbing a mountain, it was climbing Everest, which some people might argue is, okay, it's very easy, just walk up it. Well, I challenge you to do that, because it's not the case of doing that. It's extremely dangerous. But it was also the impossibility of it. Here I am at my age, with my eyesight, with my situation. It's what I needed. Now, so Everest to me as a mountain was a physical manifestation of the struggle I was going through. I thought, I just have to get to the top of this thing. Now, somebody else's might be something different. It might be, I want to be the best mother, best father. I might want to be the best at my work. I might want to be the best in the world. It was. I set myself a task which even I didn't think I could do, but that's what I needed. So I couldn't, and I'm quite a physical person. So that challenge to me was something that I've often thought, maybe I could do it, or maybe my arrogance would say, yeah, I could do that, But at some point, my little voice in my head was going, no, you can't really, you can't. So I thought, okay, I need to do something I don't think I can to change my mindset, to pull me out of where I was. I needed that. I had to find the biggest thing to hang on to, because nothing else was worth it. I mean, okay, so I didn't want to get back to where I was. I could build a company. Okay, I could find another girlfriend. Okay, I can't bring my brother and sister back, but I could look after my sister and my father. I could look after my mother and my brother. I could do those things. Those things were easy. This was not easy. So for me, personally, I had to choose something that was very difficult, very challenging, because that gave me fuel. It gave me a reason to get out of bed, and I needed to find that reason. And I think people need to do that. They need to, and it was distracting. You know, I knew that to do that, I would have to focus hugely on training, my diet. I'd have to get my work in order so I could afford it. I mean, it's, you know, talking $40,000-$50,000 to do this US. And so I'd have to get all these things, and that gave me tremendous focus. And so in a way, you might argue that I was denying my issues, but I also knew that I needed to just make a start. I had to start. And that's often the biggest thing, is not looking at the end goal. I just had to start something. I had to act. I had to do something. If I didn't do that, I was lost. I was gone. You know, I was going to be swimming off to wherever, or jumping off a building, or, you know, I needed that. You know, I had to find that for myself. And I think other people have to find that themselves. You can't be given that. You have to find your Everest, for whatever that is, to give you the energy. So now, and making that decision to climb a mountain, it allowed me to then think, well, okay, I need to be in a good space in my mind. So I had to address how I started thinking about stuff, and how I treated people, and how I had a routine to sort my mind out, sort my thinking out, become positive. And that had a reflection on how to, okay, so I have to deal with my issues. I have to face them, and I have to consider them, and I have to work out. And I need support, so I have to go and talk to people. So all those things, I mean, this all happened literally in minutes in my mind. This all came out. It just was like just completely dumped on me. Everything became clear. Okay, if I do this, it actually gives me the answer for a lot of questions I've got, a lot of struggles I have. And as I say, you know, that worked for me. So what works for somebody else may be something different. But if you can think of it that way, that I needed to set my goals so high that I just knew I'd have to give it 1,000% to get there. And in doing that, I just got laser focus, literally overnight. You know, it didn't take the pain away of loss. It didn't take the struggle away, but it gave me a reason to face them and deal with them. And that was life-changing, you know. And because of that, I'd say I've become a better person. I've become a more compassionate boyfriend or partner. I've become a better son, a better brother. And now I look at things that even with my eyesight, I used to say, I can't see this, can't see that. Now I think, okay, I'm very fortunate. I can still see a sunrise and a sunset. You know, I can still experience things. And I started to think about things that I can do and can see, not what I can't see. You know, and since then I've got in touch with Orbis, the flying eye doctors, and I'm presenting for those guys at their gala dinner, and I'm starting to do speeches and talks about, you know, the story. But the story is almost secondary. It's how you approach life and how you approach problems. And I've been doing it the wrong way for 20, 25 years. And that was, I'm fine, it's okay. And all this came out of just climbing a bloody mountain. So now it's like I can't stop. I'm on a train now, can't get off.
But I think when we hear you, and as an audience also, when we hear you speak, you know, we get caught up in our life and what we have, and what more of what we have. And when we don't have something, then we start bitching about it. And I think the way your mindset is, you had to lose everything, like you said. You had to lose everything in order to bring the very simplicity of things, which is, you know, be kinder to people, you know, whatever, less selfish, even though you give up a lot of other stuff, which I think is not selfish. But I think it's the self-awareness that you were looking for, that you. And I think it's amazing. You know, maybe most of us not literally, you know, lose our eyesight, but I think it's a very humbling experience when you lose everything and still get going. And you are, like I said, you are very lucky. You had a great support system who don't. I think a lot of people judge others, like you also said. You know, you shouldn't, because you don't know their story. Absolutely. And I think your story is one of the most amazing stories. And this is why I do this show, is because I learn a lot more, you know, through speaking to people. And I think climbing a mountain, I wouldn't do it. I mean, the training that goes in it is totally different ball game than just going to the gym. right?
Yeah.
So let's talk
Absolutely.
about your training. Let's talk about, hang on, let's talk about the, I can't pronounce the word, so I'm not even going to try. The mountain that you just,
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
even going to.
It was a mountain called Ama de Blam. It's 6,800 meters, which is 22,000 feet. So it's still 2 kilometers shorter than Everest, but it is quite a significant mountain. It's quite a technical mountain. If there's any climbers out there, they probably know that it's, they've been to the Nepal and they've been to the Himalayas. There's some tough mountains out there. It's often used as a bit of a training ground for guys that are going to go and do Everest because it combines a bit of altitude with technicalities. And I'd never done this. I mean, I snowboarded down Aguida Midi in Chamonix, which is a glacier that comes off Mont Blanc or next door to it, which is only about 3,500 meters. Obviously, I've run up and down Kota Kinabalu, which is 4,000 meters. But this is like, a couple of kilometers above that, and it's hard. So the base camp that you spend several weeks at Ama de Blam is the height of Mont Blanc, which is the highest mountain in Europe. So you're having to acclimatize for a couple of maybe a week or so to get to base camp, and then you sit around there and you go up, down, and it's a tough mountain. It was quite something. You see pictures of these things. It looks like your typical mountain. It's called Ama de Blam because it means mother's necklace, because it has a big serac on its pinnacle up here. And it has two arms coming out, which looks like a mother cuddling its children. And you sit in that bowl for several weeks. I mean, the scenery is spectacular. And again, I was having this conversation yesterday with my girlfriend, and I said to her, because I now have this approach of seeing things that I never, I appreciate what I can see. There was a view when you get to Camp 1, and these camps are very small. They're not like camps in the field. It's on the side of a mountain. You've got big drops 1,000 feet below you. And so we got there. I was absolutely exhausted, and I leaned over this wall, and my friend Paul said to me, he said, check that out. I looked down into the bowl, and there's this clouds that you're looking down on in this surrounding of mountains with the sun coming down, the blue skies, and you're at like 19,000 feet. It's freezing cold, but just this view was amazing. I mean, from what I could see, I just thought, wow. And this is, helicopters don't go there, planes don't go there unless you climb this mountain. No one else sees that unless you go there. And I just felt privileged and blessed. I thought, wow, people have helped me get here. Yes, I've worked bloody hard, but I wouldn't have done it without other people's help. And I just thought that was magical. And that was a really good inspiration for me to carry on, to think that I was just lucky enough to be able to do that. And I realized that when you put yourself through challenges, when you put yourself out there, you'll get things back that you didn't expect. And for me, seeing that, as someone at this age, I never thought I'd be able to see, was quite something. It was quite affected me quite a lot, and that was an amazing experience, But it's a tough mountain. It's high, it's cold, it's exposed. It was quite something, and I was very, very privileged and lucky to be there, and learned a lot about myself, and also realized that Everest is not going to be that easy, but it's doable.
So when you say 2 kilometers, and you're like, okay, that's not much. Isn't 2 kilometers more,
Well,
right? So let's talk about some challenges that you encounter in Nepal.
Well, let's put it in perspective. I mean, when you're at Camp 1 on that mountain, you can see Camp 2, and Camp 2 is only a few hundred meters higher. Well, I mean, now it's at 6'1", 6'3", something like that. You're at 5'8", so you're about 300 meters higher, and it's only about maybe 600-700 meters away, but that takes you 4 hours. So because it's just so, because you can't breathe, I mean, the Sherpa's amazing. They'll just put their packs on, off they go. It's like they're in the country walk, but you're just like, you feel like you're dragging a house because there's just no oxygen, and it's very hard to train for that. In fact, I realized to some extent that you can be, fitness isn't, it's not about fitness, it's about your mind. If your mind's clear and your mind's straight and you're focused, that makes a huge, I mean, you have to be reasonably fit, of course, but this was about how you dealt with it. This is about when you literally can't put one foot through the other, and you would literally take 2 or 3 steps and have to stop and take 4 or 5 breaths, and then take another few. And sometimes you're climbing up sheer rock face, and you'd climb up maybe 10 meters. It's not high, but you'd be exhausted when you got to the top of that, and you'd be just puffing and panting. Of course, I had the flu at the same time, which was even worse. So phlegm coming out, coughing my guts up, and it was exhausting. So, but it's all about the mind. It's all about just being able to put yourself somewhere else and get a rhythm. And that's very hard to train for. So marathon runners do very well, obviously, because they're able to put their mind somewhere. They get that rhythm going. Although we did have a triathlete, and I think he struggled in some respects. I think that I've learned that to do most of these things. And I think if you spoke to most sportsmen and women, that pretty much 95% of the population could do what they do, but they've got that 5% of the mind sorted out. With that, you can do anything.
Yeah. So people that are tuning in now, they must remember that Simon has never done this climbing up the mountain. Yeah. So he decided one day, because he's a bit cuckoo, he goes like, "This is what I'm going to do." He did. He had great support from his.
My brother thinks I'm a bit mad. He's like, "Oh my God." My brother's a policeman for 30 years, and he's looking at me, he can't believe I'm still alive and I do these things. But he's very supportive. But yeah, I mean, it was just that was my choice. It was I like to do things that will push me, and the idea being is actually there is a selfish reason that I want to do it, because I'm sort of healing myself in a process. But also I wanted to show other people, particularly young people, that they will face challenges in life, and it will be tough at some point, and they may even have a disability, but it doesn't stop you doing anything you want to do. That's all up here. That's got nothing to do with your physical. That's up here. So that's what I would try and encourage people to think about.
Yeah, but I think that it's amazing that you try to reach out to people that watching this show, especially kids, because kids, I realize that nowadays kids, especially I have my own children, they are so short-sighted.
Yeah,
they don't see the journey, and they just want to reach the destination.
Correct.
So for you can inspire them by telling your story, because it was a rocky road. I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think that some people do think that they want the prize, but they don't want to put the effort in. They want the reward without the pain that goes with it. And I do think it's unfortunate nowadays that people are encouraged to feel that they're a success at everything for doing nothing, and they're rewarded for it. And I think it's a big mistake for society to do that with particularly young children. You have to find your talent for yourself. You can't say that if 20 kids run a race, they all get a medal. It's wrong. Some people are great at that. Some people are great academically. You find yourself, and I don't think kids are taught to look inwards and actually think, okay, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, and be honest. And that's what I had to do. I had to look in the mirror and be honest, brutally honest. And then when you do that, you find your thing. I have certain talents, and other areas I'm weak in, and actually I've learned not to try and make the weaknesses strengths. I've got strengths. Focus on those. You can't take away all your weaknesses. In fact, sometimes they're there for a reason. They might keep you mindful. They might keep you thinking about the course that you're on, and they're just things that you have. But I think that for young children, the temptation is to want to have everything but not pay the price. And unfortunately, often they get that. And I actually think that makes life very difficult for you later on. It will come back and bite you. You'll pay for it somewhere at some point. And I suppose in some respects, I put myself in that category. I just thought I could do anything, and I could have anything. And I built my life around that until it just took it away. And I thought, actually, I'm not in control of this. There's certain things I'm not in control of. I can't control everything. I can't control everybody. And that was a huge lesson for me to do. But it was a good one. And if I can save people 30 years learning that lesson, then I'd love to do that. Don't have to go through what I went through to learn that lesson. I mean, there's certain things you can't stop. Losing loved ones because of illness is going to happen. Relationships will come and go. But how you deal with them and how honest you are about those things and being open about them, I think counts for a lot.
I think honesty towards yourself is the most scary, and most people want to deal with it. People, they'd like to be honest to other people, but they don't want to be honest to themselves, because it's too scary, because you have to deal with you, I think. So let's talk about. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's also who you surround yourself with as well. Your friends need to be honest to you too. So I think people often surround themselves with people who are, will almost encourage their negative side in some respects. And now I like my friends to be brutes. If I'm being an idiot, then they say, Simon, you're being an idiot. And now I say, why? Why do you think that? Why do you say that? I want to learn and understand myself better. I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan, and he says you are the sum of the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, and I think that's good. So, and we all know if you surround yourself with drug dealers, that's probably the path you'll take. If you surround yourself with good people, that's the path you'll take. And I think I'm very much more conscious about who I, associate with and surround myself with as well nowadays.
So now, when is Mount Everest?
Well, I had an injury when I came back. I didn't summit at Lama. I was just a few thousand feet short. So I got to 20,000 feet and unfortunately came off a traverse and twisted my ankle, which is still playing up today. It got better, now it's got worse. I did some running and it's gotten worse again. So, and I got a broken rib. You have to go 2 months ahead of the climb. You can only climb in May pretty much, unless you're an experienced climber and can do the winter. But essentially you climb in May. So the goal was to do it on my 50th birthday, which is in May of next year. But for various reasons, mainly for training and not being ready, I think taking my own advice of being patient. And I was quite pleased. I'm very gung-ho, and I was on the mountain. I thought, okay, I can strap up and go to the summit. But, there was a Korean guy that died. There was a Japanese lady that got frostbite, and there were some injuries, and helicopters were coming in. And I just thought, okay, I wasn't so fussed about myself, but I was worried about other people being put in danger if I went off, and because helicopters can't get you. And it's very narrow traverses, some of these places, and very rocky ground. And from the camp to the summit, you're talking 17 hours of walking before you get back from the summit. So it's a long night. It's dangerous. And nobody's coming for you if you get hurt. So I thought, okay, I'll make a sensible decision. I'll take my own advice. So when I came back, I thought, look, you don't go and do Everest unless you're really fit. And there's a Singaporean chap, Jeremy Tong. I was with Anand Bala, a Singaporean, who both want to do it. Jeremy went this year, got to the South Summit, but wants to do it properly and get to the full summit. So he wanted to do it again next year. All of us agreed that we need to get fitter and more prepared. So we're going to plan for 2019. That gives me time to get healthy, train properly, get life, work, finances all in order. Maybe some sponsorship, that's the ideal, to try and mount a team. Because I think if I pushed it for next year, I possibly could be there. But I think I'm setting myself up for failure with, particularly I've got a problem with my knee and my ankle at the moment. And I'd have to be full on training right now because I've only got 3 months before you'd have to leave. So it's too soon. So that's the goal. So I was actually thinking, okay, for training, I was thinking the other day, what I might try and do is run around the island of Singapore on my 50th birthday. It's about 160 kilometers, I think, just a non-stop, which is 4 marathons back to back. So that could be good training. So that's potentially my next harebrained scheme is to try and do that to raise awareness of some of the charities that are important to me, which are to do with the eyesight and to do with young kids who might be vulnerable.
So I'm going to put it up the organization Orbis, right?
Yeah, Orbis is one of the ones that I'm quite keen on. These guys are amazing.
Okay. So Everest next, then probably marriage next.
Already, you got me. You got my life sorted out. Thanks. I should have just called you about a year ago.
No, but this
Layla, what do exciting. I do? Sort me out.
But so training-wise, it's going to be intense, no?
Yes,
so let's talk about what you're training now. What are you doing now?
To be honest, since I got back for a month, I did nothing because I was totally exhausted. I lost 8 kilograms in weight, which for me is a lot because I don't carry fat. So, most guys lost a few kilos, but I was very ill. I had, at one point we thought I had pneumonia and I was still climbing a mountain. So, I was in a pretty bad state. So when I came back, I lost a lot of weight. So I had to put that back on. But training's not too bad. I mean, obviously a lot of running, and I absolutely hate running. It's the one thing I would do any exercise but run. But it's a good one. Swimming is a very good one for mountaineering because of breathing. It gets you to breathe properly. I'd like to go and do the Wim Hof. I'm a big fan of his, the Iceman, the guy that sits in ice and teaches you to breathe. He actually went to 20,000 feet in his shorts, to control cold, the body temperature and breathing. But he's a crazy Dutch guy, but fantastic, and does amazing courses. But so training for me is more about Staying injury free is really important. So not going crazy with injuries, because that's a big one. But probably about 6 months out is where you really want to train for climbing a mountain like this, an 8,000 meter. We'll probably do a mountain. We're talking with the guys at the moment for next year, around about August, September, would be potentially Choi OU or one of the 8,000ers that are much easier to climb. They're pretty much walk-ups, but they get you to the altitude. So a lot of the training is more about being altitude ready. It affects people in different ways. You can't really train for it. Whether you can do a marathon or not doesn't really matter. If you can do 3 marathons, it doesn't really matter. It does help because it enlarges your heart and it gets your blood flowing, and you can oxygen. You're just fitter. So you can. But again, you're training your mind. But altitude is where you train. But yeah, generally you have to be quite strong. So lots of pull-ups. Pull-ups are a great one. Flipping tires is a great one. Because they're just putting you into exhaustion. So when I train with Yuria, she's not really training me for physical fitness. I can get myself fit. I can get myself physically fit. You want to get to that breaking point in your mind where you think, I can't go on, because that's going to happen very quickly on a mountain. At altitude with no oxygen, you break down very quickly. But that's when you have to go, okay, carry on and just keep going. And you have to literally set your mind that way. So you're training your mind. So it's more about the physical side is to break you down so you can handle the mind stuff when you don't want to run. Another guy that people want inspiration and motivation that I love is a guy called David Goggins. He's an American guy, ex-Navy SEAL, who does ultras. And he basically just runs hundreds of miles. And he talks about how he uses his mind. He's known as the hardest man in the world. Incredible guy, very straight talking, swears a lot, so beware. But yeah, if you want to know how to break through your mind, that guy is pretty intense.
I truly believe that everything is about training your mind. So if you train your mind, and you have almost found the magic to living.
Yeah, and it's not just about doing physical things as well. It's about that's in your relationship too. With my girlfriend now, we sit and we talk. And I listen. For any guys out there, learn to listen and consider. And I also ask questions, So, and that again, I've had to train my mind to stop going. So but this is what I think, and this is what I want. And it's like, okay, right. What's your view? And so I've learned to do that.
It's a natural instinct because you are a problem solver.
For sure, but I think most guys are like that. They want to get straight to the point, straight to the answer, and we all know a lady likes to be listened to. So I don't have to agree, but I do listen and I do consider and talk, and that's training the mind. I've had to retrain the way I think about how I approach talking to someone. I'm much calmer. I sleep better. So the mind affects everything. If you haven't got that in check with the body, then you're basically out of balance. And so if you get in balance, life becomes much easier. Challenges become much easier. I don't worry so much, and I've got huge challenges ahead of me in life and finances and relationships, and they'll be there. But now I feel I'm more like a Swiss Army knife. I've got a tool somewhere that will help me, and even a routine. I get up, I meditate, my diet's correct, I focus on the right things, I prioritize, all the things that I sort of used to do but did it in my mind. Now I actually take the time to set it all out. So training the mind is probably the most important thing you can do in your life. Yeah.
But maybe you should set up you can be the Hitch of Asia. Have you seen the movie Hitch?
Yeah.
You train.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I think, but it's normally that sort of advice you get from it's the advice you should follow, but never do.
So let's talk about your, before we sign off, let's talk about your podcast, the next step.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm trying to, I've been learning quite intensely about how to do podcasts and stuff like that. So, I'm well connected, but I've also found that there's on my journey to try and inspire people, that there's lots of inspirational people out there, and particularly in Asia, that's where we live. And I think then they don't market themselves very well. They don't present themselves very well. And I wanted to reach out to guys that have been there and done it, self-made people in whatever guise that may be, predominantly sort of business, and about who they are as a person. I mean, I'm not really interested in what they do and the companies they might be with, but it's how do they get through the challenge they've been through, really and properly, so that they can help people understand how they can, deal with their family lives, how they get their work-life balance, what set their goals up, how they run their day, the real sort of person behind the success. That's just something, a bit of a passion of mine. I like to get out. Ultimately, I'd like to take that on to, doing real work for real people, helping them, get somewhere that they want to be, and trying to understand that whole process. It's very popular in America. The Americans are very good at that. They're excellent at it, and they're very good at doing that internally. But I don't think that's so much exposed in Europe, and particularly in Asia. So I'm very interested because of the cultural differences out here. It's very different the way the world works here. Europeans are very similar. Americans are obviously very similar, but Asians are very different. And it's very interesting how it might work in Singapore or China or Korea or Japan. How that cultural difference is how they work in those areas, how they've grown themselves, how the challenge they faced multicultural societies over here. So I'd like to dive into that really and find out if that can help people, because it's all right for me sitting here as an Englishman in Asia going, hey, yeah, this is how I think, this is how I do things. Maybe it's different for different cultures.
Yeah. So you also have a Facebook called Mind and Mountain, right?
Yeah, that was the one I set up for tracking my adventure off to the mountain, which needs a bit of updating because I just haven't had a chance to sit down and do all my photographs and my videos and stuff like that. So I'm trying to chart the journey. If it can inspire someone to think, okay, I completely lost everything. I didn't have a penny. I couldn't even pay my rent the following month, but I managed to get to a mountain. And it's just about just not giving up. Just making a decision, seizing the day, and not giving up. If you just don't give up, you'd be amazed what happens. 18 months ago, from where I am today, I've got a beautiful woman in my life. Prospects are great. My friends have been fantastic, and I'm excited about the future. And 18 months ago, I wanted to put a gun to my head. So if you just don't give up, doors do open.
True. That's well. This is a great interview, so I learned a lot about myself too, listening to you.
We'll have to do a phase 2 then, Laila, after Everest, if I survive it.
You will. So I'm excited to see your development for Everest, your podcast, and okay. I'll put up all the information for the website and your Facebook and also Orbis. So before I end the show,
very appreciative. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you. I would like, and it's just a great story to end 2017. So for everybody that's watching this, if you think you got problems, think again.
Well, no, I also, Laila, I'd like to say I pay tribute to you as well and acknowledge you. I mean, I know your background, and I'm sure that not many people do. I'm not going to go into details, but for those that are watching, Laila's had her own challenges in life, and you've come out amazingly well, and you've turned your life from not a dissimilar place to where I was to where you are today. So, one day perhaps we'll get to reverse the roles, and maybe I'll get you, and we'll talk through how you've been absolutely amazing, the things you've done in your life.
Oh, thank you. It's about living and not giving up. So you gotta move, keep moving. So it's not about me, it's about you. So anyways, before we end, I like to end the show with what are you grateful for today?
Oh, today I'll be grateful for the fact that Caroline's with me today, and we're going to have a nice lunch and have a nice afternoon. So that for today, that's what I'm grateful for. Just that I'm very privileged. But to be honest, I'm grateful for many things. I'm grateful for my friends, my family. I'm grateful for where I've come from and where I'm going. So, and I do practice that. I urge people to. It's a great question. What are you grateful for? I ask myself that in the mornings, and I ask myself that at night. And it sets the positive mind for sleeping and for the day. So yeah. But today, I'm grateful to have Caroline on Saturday with me to spend the day with.
For me, I'm going to end it with I'm grateful for my eyesight. And I shouldn't take it for granted. On that note, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for being on the show, and I hope to see you again soon. And hi to Caroline. Enjoy your Saturday.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Laila. Yeah, you take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.